My name's John Hicklin and I'm the founding director of a company in Barnsley, South Yorkshire called Glass Onion Vintage, and we're a retailer and wholesaler of vintage fashion. So I started the business when I was at university in the early 2000s, and what I'd do is I'd travel around charity shops in Sheffield collecting vintage clothing and then selling that on eBay then just to earn a bit of extra cash on the side. We then decided to start doing markets because we thought there's something in this business. So we painted out my grandma's coal shed and we used that as his first base, and that were in around 2005, so it was me and a friend of mine. From there we take the stock and we go and do markets and trade on eBay, and it was around that time that I thought there was a real opportunity to like build a career out of it. So we set out then to build Glass Onion, and we're here today then. We're a team of 62 people, and we sort and grade 20,000 kilos a week of vintage clothing, and we've developed a sewing factory on site which produces over 12,000 pieces per month for the high street, and it's all remaking and remanufacturing old clothing, used clothing. My vision for Glass Onion is to be the go-to retailer for responsible fashion. So we want to recycle and remanufacture exciting products for us customers who are aged between 18 and 30 generally. Responsible fashion for me is thinking more about your purchases and thinking about the environmental and social impact that each purchase has. So it's like where's your clothing made? How is it made, what materials is it using, and what's going to happen to that product after it's been made and manufactured. So responsible fashion for me is just taking responsibility for the clothing that we buy, because it's really difficult for people to be completely sustainable when it comes to fashion, because fashion by its very nature is not sustainable. But I think taking responsibility and making better purchases is something that we can all actively do. And Glass Onion's mission is to look at new, exciting ways of recycling products, whether that be regrading used clothing and finding little gems for us customers that they can buy again and give a new lease of life, or that's finding things that's been damaged and broken that we can send up to our sewing factory and then remake those into like new products and give them a new lease of life. Each and every piece that comes into this building is being saved from landfill. So recycling's a big part of what we do. It's in his DNA as a business, and it's what we're really passionate about. What we're looking to do with the net zero is to look at ways to work on the things that are outside of us DNA, things like shipping, new machinery that's going to help us recycle more, looking at getting specific standards set in place. We're looking to establish standards which is going to really push us into a more sustainable future and help us achieve the goals that's been set out for 2050. And I think that there's so much that we can be doing outside of the DNA of the company in recycling, whether it be with couriers, whether it be with the partners that we use, the standards that we bring in, and the machinery that can help us process. Glass Onion started with just a couple of people. So one of the challenges early on was finding enough raw product, recycled clothing, to fulfill the orders that we had. And I was finding products that were perfectly like grade A quality, but I was finding a lot that were really damaged. And when I looked into what were happening to them, a lot of that were going into landfill. So what we started to do is remake the clothing. So we'd take damaged items with rips on the sleeve or stains, and we'd cut them up and make new products from them. We started working with a local factory in Rotherham, and we started then making remade products for the high street. During that time then, we looked at ways to introduce his own factory and create his own factory, and I was lucky enough to meet a lady called Sue Wilkinson, who's now retired. And Sue had years and years of experience because she worked in SR Gents, and SR Gents were in Barnsley and Rotherham, and they employed 13,000 people in the area. and they were making clothing for a big high street chain, and that were all closed down in the late 90s, early 2000s as that production moved out to the Far East. So during that time then, Sue went to work in Turkey, China, all over, and I was lucky enough to meet her and say, right, Sue, we're wanting to set up a sewing factory in Barnsley, start creating jobs, getting people back on sewing machines, and we're wanting this factory to be focused around remaking vintage clothing. We're taking damaged clothing that's going to be going into landfill and making new, really great garments that customers are going to absolutely love. And that was Sue's mission, and she just absolutely nailed it. And within a few short years then, we got a factory set up, we got a technical team, we got designers in, and we're making then up to 12,000 garments per month then for the high street in South Yorkshire, creating jobs and opportunities for people. We've got that skill that had worked in companies like SR Gents, but also those people helping train up the younger people and to get on a sewing machine and get producing. And we're really excited about bringing sewing back to the UK, to South Yorkshire, and to getting young people on sewing machines and trained up. It's a big part of our future, and most importantly, the recycling as well. So each piece that they're working in the factories was destined for landfill. So we're making great products, we're employing in the community, and we're training up young people. Recycling and sustainability is part of Glass Onion's DNA. It's what we do, it's at the core of the business, core of the values of people that work in this business. And it was through an introduction from Kevin Steele at the Barnsley Business Village. He introduced us to net zero and talked about the benefits of how that could help us as a business. And that's why we chose to start working in net zero. The thing that interests me most about net zero is the carbon calculator. So it's looking at what we emit as a business and getting metrics on that. Because we find that if we've got clear metrics, we know exactly where we are as a business, what damage we're doing. They're then things that we can work on to improve. Because I don't think it's good enough that we sit back and hang us hat on we recycle and we do this and we do that. We need to be looking at every aspect of the business and how we're going to make that all better. We're in the very early stages as journey with net zero. So just today we've had our coaching session with Simon, where we're looking at how we're going to deliver the outcomes that we've set ourselves, which is centred around looking at machinery, looking at new standards, and looking at ways then to promote and market what we do. And Simon's coming in to really help with that. So the key things that we're going to be working on throughout the programme of net zero are introducing environmental or sustainable standards and getting them integrated into his daily business. We're going to be looking at machinery that's going to help us cut down the waste even more. So that's after it's been processed in the sewing factory, we still get offcuts, and there's ways of packaging that up to send on to other recycle companies. And also look at ways to market and promote what we do, because recycling is a big part of what we do. And I think we need to be speaking and showing people about how we operate as a business, how we're employing people in the community, and we need to be talking about that more than we do currently. So at Glass Onion, we're looking to bring back manufacturing to the UK, but more specifically to Barnsley, South Yorkshire. South Yorkshire's got a heritage of skilled machinists, sewing machinists. So we started to recruit those machinists, get them back on the sewing machines, and they're now recycling products in Barnsley, South Yorkshire, and those products are now sold all over the world. So we'll wholesale products to high street stores across the US. So I've been lucky enough to be in New York and see products in these big department stores in New York that have been manufactured here in Barnsley and recycled here in Barnsley. Every product is hand selected, designed and manufactured under one roof here in Barnsley, South Yorkshire. And that's a big part of his vision for the future, how we grow that factory, how we create more jobs in the community, and how we get people recycling and preventing products going into landfill. So here at Glass Onion, our raw product is used clothing. So every last piece that comes into this building is getting recycled. We've got expert graders who've been working with vintage clothing for over 10 years. They're looking at each product, looking at what can be resold directly to us customers. But then we're also looking for items that are damaged that would be going into landfill that we can send to us sewing factory. So everything's selected, designed and handcrafted in-house in Barnsley, South Yorkshire. We look to minimise waste wherever we can. So the raw product is used clothing. We'll then make a new product out of that, which is then sold on his website or wholesaled to high street customers around the world. That'll then create offcuts. From those offcuts, then we look to make hair accessories like scrunchies, which we retail and wholesale as well. So we try and minimise waste wherever we can. The waste that's then left over, that's where Net Zero's coming in. So we're looking at ways to use that excess waste that's left right to the end, and there's machinery and equipment out there that can help repackage that up and be sent to recycle companies then for turning into insulation for houses and things like that. But that's where we're getting the support from Net Zero. Net Zero's been really beneficial so far. We're still at the really early stages of his journey with Net Zero, but the carbon calculator has been absolutely brilliant to outline where we are as a business today in terms of what we're emitting as a business. The seminars have been great online and also at the Business Village, and the coaching that we're getting is going to be a really big help as well. And I'm excited about getting stuck into that and delivering the outcomes that we've just discussed this morning. I think Net Zero offers loads of benefits for businesses in Barnsley. It offers great insight into what you're doing currently as a business, which gives you room to look at then areas that you can improve on. There's support available through coaching, through seminars, and the carbon calculator is absolutely brilliant. It gives you a really good assessment of the business and where you are. And I think it's important for businesses in South Yorkshire to be looking at ways to improve their carbon emissions, because I think South Yorkshire could be a place that's really pushing forward when it comes to recycling and green.